This is Dr. Fussell, board certified urologist. I'm drinking a little coffee. I drink my coffee black, black like me. All right. So the thing is that you see this cup right here. It says Hustle Fussle. This is my son's logo, which I think is pretty cool. So we're finna jump this thing off because this is gonna be our Thursday talk here, where we're getting into this whole thing for y'all that don't really know me. I'm Dr. Melvin Fussell. I'm a board certified urologist for over 20 years. I kind of got a crazy background because I was an electrical engineer, Tuskegee. I did my pre med, Fort Valley, did bioengineering, University of Washington, Medical School, Wisconsin, and then I went to Medical College of Georgia. I'm the first African American to graduate in urology in that program. I'm the second in their general surgery program, and I did all that just to make penises bigger. Man, that's a long trip just to get to what I'm doing now, right? Well, of course, the thing is that, over the time, years or whatever, you kind of find your niche. So this is what I do. I'm the founder of Urohard for Men, where we make you bigger, longer, harder. All right, bigger is increasing girth, longer is increasing length, harder is erectile dysfunction. And because I'm a urologist, I'm the guy you come to when the pills don't work and all this other kind of stuff. I'm the guy you come to when you had prostate cancer surgery and now you can't get erection because they cut your nerves. So I'm that guy, you know, when all the little stuff that you buy on radio and I mean, you buy over the internet and whatever that you see advertised, because it's out there now, you know, but those are just a bunch of pills. What else can you do when the pills don't work? Or I'm the guy when you say that, hey, I just want to be bigger. I don't really have an erection problem, but I just want to increase my size. I want to be bigger. I want to be longer. All right. So that's what we do. And when we do it, we're talking about no surgery, no cutting, it's painless, go home same day, back at work the next day, permanent, permanent for life. I know. It sounds too good to be true, but that's what I do. Hey, Patrick, thank you. Thank you for chiming in. So, thing is that, what I'm seeing here is that I got a growing business. I like to play on words like that. This business is growing. And we're getting guys from all over the United States. I mean, guys are flying in from California, Texas, Miami, New York. They're flying in here, right here to Warner Robins, Georgia. All right. And the thing is they go back home much bigger than when they came. And that's what we do. Or they go back home now getting erections when they couldn't before. It's amazing to be in a position where, you're changing people's lives. Because the guys that are coming to see me are guys who didn't get erection, hasn't had erection in like 5 years, 10 years. A lot of these guys is happening because of all kinds of problems like diabetes, hypertension, whatever. And you're thinking it's over. Yes, Lisa. I know she got to comment something and she's yep, yep. I've been told that before. I am out here doing the Lord's work because we're changing the game, man. I mean, it's kind of like you know there's so much to be gained from being able to be active and whatever. I think it's a blessing, to be functional and to actually be able to get a good erection and all this other kind of stuff. And then when you lose that, oh my God, it's just like, some guys feel like I don't have much to live for. That's the thing that was so enjoyable to me, because we don't think about all the things that happen, for a guy, when he's going through that. I did this whole thing about dopamine. All right. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter. All right. That's released and it goes to the brain. All right. People love a dopamine high. I mean, we're thrill seekers. When you get a dopamine high, it happens on the golf course. When I swing that club and I knock that ball, I'm like, oh my God, I hit that ball. That's a dopamine rush. Or when you're sitting there putting and you drain that hole, or you're right there and that big fish hits the line and you're like, oh my God, I got a big one. And everybody's screaming, right? That's a dopamine rush, and we love that. We love it, and it's contagious. That's why, these guys are in thrill seekers or whatever. They're on skateboards. I want to see if I can hit that move and all this other kind of stuff. All of that feeds us dopamine. But hey, dopamine is released during sexual intercourse and even more during ejaculation. There you go. Lord made us that way, that dopamine rush. Now, I'm just trying to give people some time to join in because our subject today is going to be something that I can tell you that, look, guys talk to me all about it all the time. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you will once I finish this conversation. Because we're talking about this size matter. Here's the talk. Growers versus shores. Does it actually matter? Come on now. Grower versus a shore. All right, let's settle this once and for all. Growers versus shores, does it actually matter, or is this just locker room nonsense? And more importantly, who actually wins where it counts? Most guys I talk to, when I'm sitting down and I ask them, I say, hey man, are you a grower versus a shore? They know what I'm talking about. you know, but I'm a urologist, I'm the male enhancement doctor. So yeah, I can sit down and ask those kind of questions. You usually can't just do that to your buddy. All right. Don't go there. All right. But for me, I don't have those boundaries. Guys sit down, they talk to me, and I'll ask them, hey man, are you a grower versus shore? And I'll be real because actually I was more of a grower than a shower. I used to be. But I can tell you that it makes a difference in how it affects men. And we're going to talk about that. Now, let's kind of define this whole thing, grower versus shore, because I want to make sure everybody knows what I'm talking about. A grower is somebody who gets a significant increase when they go from flaccid state, that's a soft, all right, to erect state. So the grower is a guy who, yeah, yep, it's about like that until actually blood flow comes in and now he reaches that erect state. And now, as a urologist, I'm always having to tell guys, hey, we're going to do exam, drop your pants, da 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 da. That's what I do as a doctor. All right. So, you see guys, they're stretching themselves and all this other kind of stuff. And they're trying, because they realize that I'm more of a grower, and, oh boy, don't shrunk up on me. Maybe it's cold in the room. All right. That type of thing. Now, why does that happen? There's a thing out there called a cremaster reflex. We really see this more down in the scrotum. All right. But just to give you some idea is that you get a better understanding of what I'm talking about if we talk about the scrotum down by the testicles. Now, I know we're talking about, the penis, but this is about the testicle, the cremaster reflex. What happens is that spermatogenesis happens at a different temperature than it does, as far as body temperature. So what happens is that the testicles can drop down and pull up to control temperature so you can actually generate sperm. All right. Now, if you kept it warm all the time, your sperm count will drop. So you've heard people say, hey, if you spend too much time in a hot tub, your sperm count drops. Why? Because the water's warm all the time, and now you can't actually, the scrotal sac cannot go up and down to control the temperature. But that's what we're seeing when we start talking about the cremaster reflex. So yeah, when it's cold, everything draws up. When it's warm, it lets down to hang. And what it's doing is controlling temperature for spermatogenesis. All right. So yeah, does the penis does that kind of thing? You get some of that. That's not really truly the cremaster reflex, but I just needed you to understand. That's why I want to tell you that this conversation is strictly for educational purposes. So what I'm doing is I'm educating you as we're talking about a subject that a lot of people are a little touchy about, you know. But the thing is that where are you going to go where you can talk to somebody who really knows what they're talking about? You know, and I ain't trying to, gaslight myself, but I've been doing this for over 20 years. I know what I'm talking about. So the thing is that, when we have these conversations, it's for educational purposes only. I'm not your doctor. I'm not your urologist. You should go see your personal urologist. But I throw this information out here and I let you guys ask questions. So that's what we're talking about. Lisa's got a question.
Four questions, actually. Charlie says, can you make his penis bigger?
Uh, Charlie asked, could he be made bigger? Of course, without a doubt. All you got to do is give us a call. And phone number is 478 225 9324. You can dial that right now. All right. And get somebody on the phone. If you're after hours, our AI system will pick up. You leave your information. You will be getting a phone call back.
Patrick wants you to discuss some stuff about ED, but I told him to hold on to the end and we'll try to add it on because we're on a different
Yeah.
topic.
Patrick, I know you want to ask questions about ED. I will cover those questions. Ask me whatever. We're going to put that kind of at the end because we're talking about grower versus shower. So I do kind of just answer questions at the end. And what was the other question?
Alan says, hey, Doc, how can you gain girth without surgery?
Somebody asked, how can you gain girth without surgery? I can tell you right now that that's what we do. When you start talking about girth procedure, all right, I'm just going to go off on a little tangent here, all right? When you come to see us about our filler procedure, what we use is a filler, all right? That's a biostimulant. It's going to cause your body to make natural collagen. So there's no surgery, there's no cutting, it is painless. Go home same day, back to work the next day, permanent for life. Boom, just like that. So I have guys that fly in from California. I make them bigger. They get on the plane. They're back in California by that evening. Impressive. Yep, that's what we do. I'll take a bow. That's what we do. Yep. So yeah, we can do it without surgery. That's right.
This is a quick question. It's about ED, but Jess Blade says, can your prostate affect blood flow for to get erections?
Somebody asked about, can your prostate affect blood flow to get erections? Well, the thing is that the prostate and the penis actually have different blood supply. So the thing is that the nerves that go to the penis go under the prostate, between the prostate and the rectum, and it goes out to the penis that way. So that's the nerves. That's why when a person has a prostate taken out, as far as a male for prostate cancer surgery, we have to do nerve sparing surgery, or those nerves can be cut. So when we start talking about and uh, blood flow for the prostate and the penis, they're separate. All right. So,
Chris, we got one other question. Chris says, if you get this procedure, what are the long term effects?
somebody asked about. Okay, so there's a Chris out there asked about what's the long term effects. It's permanent. Why is it permanent? All right, Chris, here it is. Here it is. Because our filler is a biostimulant. It's going to cause your body to make natural collagen. So our filler goes away in about 6 months. But what you're left with is your natural tissue. That's all you for the rest of your life. I can tell you that I've had it done twice myself, and that's been a couple of years ago. So, but I am permanently at a bigger size now for life. All right. So, yeah, long term, it's all your tissue.
Al says, what about length?
Okay. So, Al, I know you asked about length. All right. So, what about length? Now, when we talk about bigger, longer, harder, all right, bigger is increasing girth, longer is increasing length, harder is erectile dysfunction. The thing about length, now, just to do a lengthening procedure, we'd be talking about a partial release of your suspensory ligament. You say, well, where is that ligament? If you feel down here right above, all right, the penis, there's a bone. And between the bone and the penis, there's a little ligament, which is the suspensory ligament. Now, you can do a release of that. We do a partial, not a complete. And now it can actually hang out further. So that is a lengthening procedure. All right. Well, we actually, but here's the case. When a guy actually has our girth procedure, we don't promote that as a lengthening procedure. But just because of the mass and the size, his new size, everything hangs longer. So, will you actually hang longer after a male enhancement procedure without a lengthening procedure? Yes, you will. But that's not what we push. But yes, you do gain length just because it is physically bigger, heavier, and it hangs longer. There you go. All right.
One more question is kind of also off subject.
All right. One more question before we jump back on this girl versus shore, because I appreciate the questions. Keep your questions coming. All right.
William wants to know if you're on the medical board in Florida. I'm not sure.
Will wants to know, am I on the medical board in Florida? I'm not on a board, but I'm licensed in Florida. So yeah, I'm a licensed physician in Florida. There you go, Will. I don't know why you asked that question, but yeah, I'm licensed in Florida. All right, so, and Georgia and some other places too. All right, so here we go. All right, what is a grower? We talked about a significant increase from flaccid to erect size. So that's a grower is a guy, that usually he's short or, very small. But then once the blood flow comes in there, he significantly changes from a flaccid soft size to erect hard size. It's a significant change. That's a grower guy. All right. The short guy, he looks big even when he's flaccid. This guy just kind of hangs, but he don't get a dramatic change when he goes from flaccid to erect. So he's more of a shore. I'm always hanging. I'm always showing. All right. The other guy, he's got to get blood flow in there to really stretch it out. That's just from the tissue itself. I personally was more of a grower than a shore. That ain't my case no more because I've had male enhancement. All right. So the guys who surprise you, this is what you want to know. This is the funny thing. The guy who ladies, would you rather have the guy who surprises you versus the guy who who already shows up ready? All right? You can throw some in the chat. Do I want to be surprised? Or I just want to already show up ready? Because one's a glow up and one's a preview. That's how you can think about it. Grower versus shore.
Anna says the surprise.
There you go. The surprise. I already had somebody chime in. Ladies, chime in because sometimes these guys are shy. They don't want to come out and say the stuff that they're really thinking. So, ladies, help me out with this conversation, because we're trying to help these dudes out, and they're over here dealing with all the stuff that, they don't have anybody to talk to about. That's why we're having this kind of conversation. What I'm doing is I'm talking about stuff where most people are afraid to go, or they can't go, or they don't have the background to go to. So, ladies, help me out. Help me help them. All right? So, guys, which one are you? I mean, I used to be more of a grower than a shower, but, because I believe in what I do and I've had male enhancement, I'm a grower and a shower now. So, but let's just talk about some of the science behind all this, all right? Actually, most men fall somewhere in between, all right? Now, how do I know that? Because I'm a urologist. And I do male genitalia exams because I'm a genitalia expert. All right. Remember, my conversation here is strictly for educational purposes. All right. So always remember that. All right. So there's no strong correlation with performance or satisfaction. All right. So even though you're a grower versus shower, it doesn't really mean that you're going to perform better or be more satisfying. All right. Here's the other thing. Flaccid size is a terrible predictor of erect size. Ladies, please hear that. Flaccid size, all right, when everything's cold and it's all tight and all this other kind of stuff, it's a terrible predictor of what he's going to be like once blood flow actually fills into the corpora cavernosum and now he's got a full erection. Those two are totally different. So yeah, flaccid size is much smaller for a guy who's a grower, all right? But it doesn't predict what his erect size is going to be. So yeah, you might say, "Wow, that's all you're working with?" But you don't understand how much he expands once the blood flow is there. So you can't predict when you just look and you see that, hey, things might be tight right now. Maybe it was cold in the room. All right. But the thing is that once everything warms up, he don't look like where he started from. That's the true science behind it. So guys, I'm trying to help you out because I know sometimes some people are judgmental. Some women are judgmental because you look down and you're like, that's it. No, it's much more. It's just it's cold in the room. So the thing is that yes, there's a change. But here's the point. When you actually come and see us for male enhancement, our measurements are based on flaccid size. All right. It doesn't predict your erect size, but understand this. Once you get male enhancement with us, we tell you that you're going to pick up 3¼ to an inch. All right. Now, for those guys that do all the extra stuff, because we have trade secrets that we're doing and all this other kind of stuff, 3¼ to an inch is the minimum. My guys are picking up 1.5 to 2 inches. So guys are really picking up. So now when you say he's going from a flaccid to erect size, what does he start? Is he starting down here or is he starting up here? So once you get male enhancement, you're starting up here. So you end up here. You see what I'm saying? I started out big. I end up much bigger. That's all I'm saying. So we changed the game when you start talking about going from a flaccid size to erect size. If I'm already big when I'm flaccid, I'm going to be much bigger once I'm erect. All right. Now, back to what we were saying. What you see in the locker room is not what matters in the bedroom. And I'm telling guys that because, this kind of stuff really affects us mentally. But let's just talk about what women actually notice. All right. Well, guys, listen closely now. And ladies, chime in if I ain't getting all this right because I need that interaction. What women really notice is your confidence. How do you come across? Are you a confident guy? All right. Also, erect size plus function matters more than flaccid appearance. All right. So yeah, what they really notice is your erect size and how well you perform, how well you function. All right. And then they also notice emotional plus physical experience. So, ladies, can you put something in the chat? Do you even care about a guy who's a grower versus a shower? Do you even care? Does it matter to you where he starts? If he's a grower versus shower? I think most women care about where he ends. But the thing is that do you really care? I know it affects us. All right, but ladies, do you care? Because that's how a lot of these guys get interrupted mentally. Because it's just like, hey, I don't want my stuff all shrunk. All right, let's talk about how it actually affects men. And Lisa, let me know if somebody's chiming in the chat.
Someone asked, do we offer any financing?
So somebody asked about when we do male enhancement, do we offer any financing? And the answer is yes, we definitely offer financing. Your best bet is to reach out to us and have a consultation, which is free. And you can get all those questions answered about cost and stuff like that. You can even go a step further or a step closer by going to my website, which is urohard.com. That's URO, like urology, hard, HARD.com. actually there's a little button down at the bottom, a little green telephone button where you can actually talk to the website. And some of these questions you can just ask my website. Like you can talk to it just like you're talking to me, Now, but if you want a more in depth answer and you want to talk to a person, pick up the phone, give us a call. All right.
The son of Mars wants to know how to measure correctly.
I'm sorry.
How do you measure correctly?
Somebody asked how you measure correctly. I can tell you that when we're taking measurements, we're looking at where you started from. So our measurements are done in the flaccid state when everything is flaccid. All right. Because, erections can vary. All right. So the thing is yes, our measurements are in the flaccid state. That's where we want to start from. So, the question is, are you going to start here? But after you see us, you start here. We changed the starting point. So we definitely changed the ending point.
And Anna answered your question. She said, nope, it's purely superficial.
Oh, Anna answered the question. It's purely superficial. And I'm trying to remember exactly what question that was, Anna. Because I'm kind of moving through here as I'm talking about stuff as far as, what's going on. But what I'm going to talk about now, because we talked about what women actually notice, let's talk about where this actually affects men. All right? I can tell you right now, this is where it gets real. Locker room anxiety. Anxiety is huge for guys. Now, you might see us, we look like we're fine, but what's going on inside of our head, we can get anxiety and you don't know that we got anxiety. Maybe we're good at masking it, but it affects us. If you remember, guys, I talked about when you get erection, you need three things. You need good blood flow, you need good nerves, and you need desire. But there's a fourth factor in there, and it's psychological. And if you ever listen to my talks, we talk about, the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic, versus sympathetic. And the thing is that anxiety affects all of that. All right. So you cannot perform when you have a lot of anxiety. It just won't happen. So the thing is that guys get, once this gets in their head, anxiety will totally mess you up. The other thing that gets us is we do a lot of social comparison, or we do comparison in the gym, because the bravado, man, I'm bigger than you, big, all this other kind of stuff. The social comparison stuff, it really affects guys. All right. Then the thing is dating insecurity. There are guys out there who really feel that they're very small and they pull back because they're so insecure about their size. It affects the anxiety, which affects performance. It's like a domino effect, because I am insecure. All right. That's that confidence thing. And then when you get to the point of actually performing, you got anxiety because you're like, okay, is she going to think I'm real small? I know that's how I started out. I'm a grower versus a shower, and I'm trying to make sure that, hey, things grow before she see me. You'd be surprised the stuff that goes through our heads as men. A lot of men aren't worried. They're not worried about performance, but that's where we really should be focusing. They're worried about perception. It's the perception of, what do you think? Do you think I look small? Am I really small? That's the kind of stuff guys ain't talking about. All right. Let me just break up some common myths. All right. Showers are always bigger. That's a myth. All right. That's not truly what's happening all the time. Growers are lacking. That's a myth. That's not true all the time. Can you tell everything from flaccid size? Told you, no, you cannot tell everything from flaccid size. All right. So This is where your heart comes in. This is how we can make the change. All right. So basically, once you come and have male enhancement, all right, you don't have to worry about being a grower versus a shower anymore. All right, because your flaccid size is always bigger. All right, you have more presence overall. All right, and then the thing is, once your flaccid size increases, right, during our girth procedure, you've got bigger girth overall. Now, for some guys and for most guys that come and see us, I can tell you not only am I selling a procedure, I'm selling confidence because I changed the game. I changed your confidence about how you feel, how you're hanging, how you perform, and everything because we change your confidence. For some guys, it's not about being bigger, it's about feeling more confident in every situation. And that's the whole thing. Is increase your confidence, increase your size. It's not about being bigger. It's not about being small. It's about wanting to be bigger. All right. I got guys that come in that are above normal size, but still their confidence has been knocked by something that happened in the past, and they want to be bigger. Heck yeah, why not? Let me make you bigger. All right. So the thing is that when you come and see us, we can tell you that enhancement can improve both your flaccid appearance. All right. So now at this point, I'm not having to worry about being a grower versus a shower. I am a grower and a shower. All right. Because I'm hanging all the time. That's why we can increase your flaccid appearance and your erect girth. All right. Now, here's a question. All right. To get a little interaction, would you rather be a grower versus a shower? Throw it in the chat. Which one would you rather be, guys? Do you want to be the big surprise or you want to be the big first impression? Now, interact, throw your questions in there because actually my grower versus shower conversation is coming to an end. Because I want to let you know at the end of the day, it's not grower or shower. It's confidence, function, and how you show up. That's what really makes a difference. And that's the whole thing is we got to get your confidence up. We got to actually change your size so you're not worried about, being small. Was there a question?
The son of Mars says both, LOL.
There you go. Both. LOL. Thank you.
Tell Patrick we're not forgetting about his questions at the end.
All right. And the thing is, if you're not confident, that says something, that's something that we can actually fix. So don't walk around with this concern when you can actually do something about it. So go to urohard.com. That's urohard.com. Or you can call us directly for a consultation. 478-225-9324. So you can actually pick up the phone and call right now and get some questions answered. That's what we do here at Urohard for Men. We are changing the game every day. Now, there were some questions that somebody asked about erectile dysfunction.
Patrick wants you to explain how hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, and all that can impact erections.
All right. So, Patrick asked this question because now I'm just kind of fielding some questions because I kind of finished up my talk here about, grower versus shower. But now I'm just answering questions. But understand this, my conversation is strictly for educational purposes because I'm not your doctor. And he was asking, how does diabetes, hypertension, things like that affect your erections? All right, let me give you a little breakdown. You got 3 major things that affect your erections: blood flow, nerves, desire. Blood flow, the 3 biggest things that affect blood flow: diabetes, hypertension, increased cholesterol. Now, with diabetes, what happens is that basically you cannot get blood flow in there because I'm going to give you the short version. you got so much sugar floating in your bloodstream that your red blood cells are clumping together. And they're supposed to form like a roulette formation so they can get into those small capillaries because the penis has small vessels in it and get in there and actually full up and fill the penis and give you an erection. But there, if you got so much sugar in there, basically it's not flowing because you got syrup in your blood veins because you got all that sugar. You got syrup in there. So now you can't get good blood flow. That's why the areas that are furthest from the heart start to have problems. And the penis is a direct barometer of your blood flow. When blood flow starts to drop off, erections start to drop off. A diabetic, if they talking about, hey, they had to take my toe off, you already know if that's a guy, he's got problems with erections. I ain't trying to put you out there, but they already know if they took your toe off, then you know your erections have already been affected. Why is that true? Because I can't even get blood flow down to my toe. You know I ain't getting it through the penis. That's just what happens with diabetes. Hypertension actually can cause those vessels to get tight. All right? Now they don't expand and dilate like they should when you're trying to get an erection. So, the doctor has to get your blood pressure down because high blood pressure affects the other organs in the body. Everything from the heart itself to the eyes to the brain and all this other kind of stuff from high pressure. That's that boom, 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 boom. You got to get the pressure down. But the penis wants pressure. It wants pressure to actually get an erection. So once we put you on medications, you start noticing that your erections fall off because we're trying to strike a balance. One part, we're trying to save the other organs, but that one organ called the penis is upset because it's not getting enough pressure. All right? Cholesterol. That's where you're just causing blockage. All right? You're blocking your blood flow because you got all this extra buildup that's inside the vessels and you're destroying the vessel wall and things of that sort. So you don't get good blood flow in there. And, you can control that just by eating better. Keep your cholesterol levels under control. Now, that was blood flow. All right. Now what we're going to talk about is nerves. Basically, the nerves that actually go to the penis go under the prostate, above the rectum, and they go in there. All right. I kind of touched on that earlier. So if you take the prostate out, you can destroy those nerves. Most times we see guys who've had prostate cancer surgery, the nerves were damaged or cut. That's why they try to do nerve sparing surgery. All right. Or if you got radiation to the prostate because you're trying to actually kill the cancer cells, well, nerves got cells in them too. So those cells get hit. So now the nerves have been blunted or they actually shut down by radiation. Or if you had like colorectal surgery where they went in there and they was operating on your rectum, maybe the nerves got injured during that time or maybe a major injury to the pelvis. So there are a lot of different things that could happen that could affect those nerves. But if you're like, my pelvis is fine, then you're really not having a nerve problem. All right, so those are the guys who have nerve injury. All right, desire is your testosterone. You got to want to. All right, you got to have some desire. That's that guy, who's blessed to get older, because actually for guys, our testosterone levels start dropping off as early as age 35. And now it's starting to decline. But everybody doesn't decline at the same rate. Some guys decline at a steep slope, some at a gradual slope. But, guys are declining. So as you're blessed to get older, your testosterone levels are dropping off. All right. So now you could say, I'm going to go get TRT, testosterone replacement therapy, because I'm trying to boost my levels back up. That actually works very well. It gets you back to feeling good. You want to get in the gym. You got energy to go do stuff. Whereas before you were on the couch, you see your significant other and you're like, hey, come here. You're trying to step to them because, hey, you got that desire. That's that male testosterone. Women have estrogen. Men have testosterone. So, yeah. We love that hormone because that's what gives us that, it makes our hair grow. It makes our muscles out there, and it gives us that desire. Now, the one thing that I hadn't really touched on is the psychological part, because if you got a lot of anxiety, you can mess up your head. And I don't care if everything else is working, your erections are still thrown off because you are so anxious. Anxiety just jacked you up. All right. that's the overview on erectile dysfunction. All right, and I can get deeper than that, but we just talking here. It ain't really a doctor, you know. I'm just that doctor on social media. All right. So, Lisa, did you have another question?
The son of Mars says he has to take ginseng to increase his stamina. He doesn't have premature ejaculation, but he wants to know how he can last longer.
Okay. All right. So the thing is that the son of Mars asks basically, how can I last longer? All right. Now, you got to understand what's happening with your body. All right. Now, this goes back to what I was just kind of talking about with the central nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, which breaks down to parasympathetic and sympathetic side. All right. The parasympathetic is nice and relaxed. I can get erection. The sympathetic side is more of excitement, and now that's the side that causes ejaculation. So if you're swinging a pendulum, the way to way to have a longer erection is I need to stay in the calm side where I'm very relaxed. Parasympathetic side is where you maintain erection. But what happens is that you get in there and you're enjoying yourself, and up, sympathetic side takes over, and game over. Game over. So you got to control your emotions. Once you understand that, then you can control the swing of the pendulum. Now, for guys who have premature ejaculation, what do? We put them on anti-anxiety medications. If we can keep them calm, then we don't have to worry about them coming too fast. It's as simple as that. All we're doing is manipulating what's actually happening with their nervous system by keeping them calm. Anti-anxiety medications help you last longer. There you go. Hope that answered your question. If not, run back to real, because that's all right there. All right.
Julio Caesar says he thought that testosterone replacement therapy causes hair loss.
Julio, you said you thought that testosterone replacement therapy causes hair loss. Nah, I don't think that's true, Julio. But the thing is that, testosterone therapy, basically what happens, when we start talking about giving somebody testosterone, all right, you got to understand how this thing works. The anterior pituitary gland releases LH and FSH, all right? And then LH and FSH go down and they affect the testicle and tell the testicle to make more testosterone and create more sperm by affecting the Sertoli cells and the Leydig cells. And then as testosterone increases, it comes back around, and now you sense all that, and you're saying, hey, speed up or slow down. All right, it's a feedback loop. But here's the catch, is that now all of a sudden I give you testosterone replacement, and that's exogenous testosterone comes in there, and then the loop is always saying, hey, I see more testosterone, so I ain't telling those testicles to do anything. So what happens to the testicle on testosterone replacement? They can shrink down and get smaller. Yep, that's right. Your nut can actually shrink. Your testicles get smaller on testosterone replacement unless you're trying to do something to maintain that size. Because yes, you can lose size. Now, what does testosterone do? It increases muscle. It increases hair growth. Our male pattern hair growth, like the beard, the mustache, and all this other kind of stuff. So, guys who testosterone has dropped off, those are the guys who actually notice that, hey, my male pattern hair growth has changed. My muscles are smaller, all this other kind of stuff. And that's what we see as guys are blessed to get older. But, hopefully I answered your question with that long explanation. But sometimes it's better to understand if you got a full picture. Now, do we have any other questions? Because I'm starting to wrap up my talk here.
Yeah. Bernard says, what is the best nitric oxide to take?
Bernard wants to know what's the best nitric oxide to take. Here's the thing, is that nitric oxide supplements are not governed by the DEA. So, me and Bernard could get together and we can create our own. And then somebody else can go over here and create their own. And now you got all this stuff on the market, and you're trying to figure out which one is the best one. It becomes a crapshoot. Why? Because it's not regulated. So you go in there, you say, okay, do they have like third party, that's evaluating their supplements to say, hey, this one works better than other. So you got to go and try to do the research, and hopefully they're not pulling your leg and BSing you. All right. But if you ever find one that really works, stick with that brand, because you can have one over here that's made by one person or one manufacturer, and another one over here that's made by another manufacturer, and this one does nothing for you. All right. So what you do is you say, okay, well, hopefully, if they're doing third party testing, meaning that I got another unbiased person to see, hey, does it actually work? So yeah, somewhere inside of the crapshoot and doing a little bit of research, you find something that actually works, stick with it. But those nitric oxide boosters are helpful. Why? Why? Because nitric oxide helps those blood vessels dilate. That's part of the pathway of how Cialis and Viagra and all these medications that we're taking by mouth, that's how they really work. They're boosting your nitric oxide to dilate those vessels so you can actually get a better erection. So that's why guys are taking nitric oxide. But there are other things out there that can help out with your nitric oxide, like beets, watermelon, all this other kind of stuff. So there's some natural stuff out there too. So, they can't just BS you on the natural stuff. All right.
Just acknowledge Casa Mike. He says horns up.
Horns up, Casa Mike. All right, all the way from Brazil. All right, so, all right.
The perfect imperfectionist says, are you saying that testosterone makes my super soldier smaller and I need to see you for replacement?
Who is this now? The
Perfect imperfectionist.
the perfect imperfectionist. So
I need
you
to see you for enhancement.
so no, testosterone does not make it smaller. The thing is, it can make your testicles smaller. And I kind of explained that when I was talking about the feedback pathway and interrupting it by getting exogenous testosterone, things of that sort. So, thing is no, it doesn't actually make the penis smaller. All right. So that's the answer to that. Now, the thing is that, there are things out there where if you go back and you look at stuff like, say if somebody had what we call Klinefelter syndrome, that's somebody whose testosterone did not increase, as they got older. So the genitalia did not develop and it didn't get bigger, So here I got a grown man, because he didn't have enough testosterone, he ended up with a smaller penis. All right. So now he can come to me and I can make him bigger. So testosterone has its place. It's important. It's the male hormone. Just like women have estrogen, men have testosterone. Hopefully I answered your question. But always remember now, this conversation is strictly for educational purposes. All right? That's what I do. So guys, I'm wrapping this up. All right? And I really appreciate you chiming in with your questions. I thoroughly enjoy these talks. I hope you realize how much I enjoy these talks and answering your questions and stuff like that. So, I believe that what we're doing is we're destigmatizing male enhancement and all this crap that's out there, because there's so much crap out there. Where do you go? Who do you talk to who can actually say, yeah, I'm an expert. I can tell you, I can answer your question. That'll be me. So where can you go? A guy can make you bigger, longer, harder. One-stop shop. Horns up. Until next Thursday. That's what we do. Totally enjoyed you guys. Thank you very much. Tune in. Go to my YouTube page, and you can go back on previous talks and stuff like that. We got a ton of shorts out there. Please join and subscribe. You can also see us on Instagram and TikTok. Join in so you can hear all this great stuff that we're talking about and how we're changing the game. Because at some point, you want true information, and that's what we give out. All right? Somebody got to stop BSing you. You got to get the real information somewhere. That'll be me. Horns up.
Does anybody have any requests for topics they'd like me to do?
And if you got any requests for topics, Lisa says throw your topics out there, and we'll prep for those kind of topics in the future. If there's just something you want a deeper dive on and things of that sort, that's right. I'm the male enhancement expert. That's what I do. All right. Until next time, keep those horns up. Are we done yet?